Great. So we will begin with roll call. Debbie?
Okay,
Roll call this meeting to order, and then we'll do roll call.
okay, so it's 5:30. Vice Chair Kate Truesdale,
Here.
Mark Husbands,
Here.
Cody Phelps,
Here.
Stephen Young.
Here.
We have Councilmember Jim Woodward.
Here.
Absent, we have Christine Adams excused, Karen Miller excused, Monica Johnson unexcused, excused English School Liaison Gary Manfrey. Staff, we have Director Christina Underhill, Deputy Director Brad Anderson, Open Space Manager Adrian Torres, Recreation Manager Allison Boyd, and Code Enforcement Manager Dave Lewis.
Great. So next we will approve the minutes from December 8th, 2020. Anyone approve the minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
Yeah, go Steve. All those approving of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Those who don't? Okay, there we go. Onward to public comment. We don't have anyone here, so we will just hop right into new business. Officer Lewis has an off-leash review.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Nice to see you again. I have a guest with me today in the corner, my son, join us,
Wonderful.
but not participate. So thanks for having him. So I just wanted to give you a quick update on the off-leash program, but first, just kind of say hi, Happy New Year. Hope things are going very well. It's nice to see your faces again, and as always, I greatly appreciate your time and allowing me to come and spend my evening with you and give you some updates and talk to you kind of what code enforcement is doing. So I appreciate your partnership. The first thing that you'll notice, I just wanted to talk about what it looks like for code enforcement in the parks. And if you'll notice, I'm dressed a little bit different than you've seen me before. So we have enhancements to our uniform based off of current safety standards. So you will see code enforcement in the park ranger will all look the same. We have body armor now. We've all been, as you know, been issued cameras, which is great evidence when we go to trial or to go to court. And the body cameras also allow us to show the high level of professionalism that our staff has when interacting with those that may be in crisis or may not enjoy the encounter with code enforcement in one way or another. One of the highlights that I wanted to share with you, because it really captures the spirit of all of Englewood, code enforcement, animals, and parks. And we redesigned our patches to be more significant and identifiable from other units within the department, as well as our colleagues out in the field. We've been without a patch for many years, and so our park ranger came to us with some talents within graphic design and drawing. And so he created the patch based off of conversations and a collaborative approach with the code enforcement team. And we really wanted to highlight a few aspects within our patch that really stand out to show that Englewood's a little different. And so I included this in just so you understand what the symbolic nature of this patch is, what it signifies for us, what we embody in code enforcement and what we strive to do, our values. And we really wanted to highlight the Griffin. And if you haven't seen the Griffin in the stairway or know the story of the Griffin, I encourage you to watch the YouTube introduction about our wonderful Griffin. I'm very proud to put this as part of our patch because it is such a historical, meaningful being that embodies what we're doing here in Englewood. So let's get into the nitty gritty of our statistics. And I think statistics are very valuable. They can be interpreted a variety of different ways based off of what your perspective is or viewpoint. But I really wanted to highlight the type of work and actions that the code enforcement and park ranger are doing when it comes to enforcement. We've broken these out by park, and rather than just giving you a highlight of the off-leash privileged areas, I wanted to make sure that I highlighted all the parks to encompass what you folks do and what you have provided some guidance to council, what you've asked us to do. It also demonstrates, because there's been a lot of misinformation about statistics out there that we are equitably enforcing ordinance at all of our parks. It reflects clearly in our statistics. You'll also notice that some of the statistics change per month. Some may be higher in other areas. We really utilize a lot of information to drive our response. So we really take an approach based off of the needs of the community, what the needs that we might be having in complaints from the community, or even from referrals from law enforcement or community members. And so you'll notice some spikes in certain areas, such as at Bellevue Park. We did have a critical incident that did occur within Bellevue Park. And the community was really upset. And so we wanted to make sure that we responded to their needs, as well as the police department and Parks and Recreation. And so we really wanted to drive and do extra patrols within that area, which resulted in additional enforcement actions, because we were spending more time as a result of the community's need to have us in the park. You'll also see that we're really not generating a lot of violations within our off-leash privileged areas or our actual official dog park. We are still visiting all of those, but they're kind of tapering off. Jason Park seems to be the one that has the highest for the off-leash privileged areas, only because it's been such a focal point of conversations within the city. It's also one that's very visible. We have people that are bordering the park that have calls for service that'll call when dogs are in areas that they're not supposed to be. We also receive calls for service from Pirates Youth Sports. And so these specific statistics are calls for service. And to define a call for service is really an action or a documented action that code enforcement had to take. So whether we did an extra patrol, we did a warning, you'll notice that we captured the number of summonses that we issued for each park and the total, so that you can kind of see how the progression of our educational efforts waned out. And once the park ranger was fully trained, we really started focusing in on repeat offenders or offenders that were non-compliant in some way. And so those have been the challenges, and those are the priority that we give to issuing summons. Our park ranger and code officers are very tuned into the community and tuned into every park. We know who's visiting the parks. We know your face. We know your dog, actually more than probably your face. And so when we're encountering the same people repeatedly, it does warrant an extra level of enforcement. And so we have been taking those measures. Do you have any questions about this?
With Centennial, that's like quite a bit too. Is that because people are thinking it's still off leash?
There are some people that still think it's off leash. We also spend a considerable amount of extra time because it does have the lake.
Yeah,
And so when we're doing enforcement, we're not just looking for off leash.
yeah,
We have all of the rules that we're currently looking at and enforcing. We're providing education opportunities when it comes to smoking. Our young people have asked that we take care of that. We're also encountering an increase in the unhoused population that like to migrate.
yeah.
And so that's brought in some considerable extra need for attention at Centennial Park. So they're not always animal related,
Yeah.
but they are related to some type of use around the park.
Any other questions? Okay.
Perfect. Any questions about the off-leash before we move into pet registration? Was there any other questions about the off-leash privilege program, the enforcement or educational aspects that we're taking from code enforcement?
No, but we do have that meeting in a couple weeks with city council, right, to review it?
23rd.
Are you gonna be there too?
I will be presenting almost identical. They'll have some other enhancements from other departments that will be a part of that.
Great, awesome, thank you.
I did want to mention also, since you mentioned Centennial Park, and the council member has asked, we're not doing formal reports on changes in wildlife.
Yeah.
But I will, like I've said, we've taken some photographs of significant wildlife moments that have occurred in Centennial Park and moments that we haven't seen before, which involve migratory birds. Like I said earlier, the hatching of hatchlings that survived. And today, one of the most, it can't be shared publicly because it is a bit gory, but it was quite amazing to see a juvenile bald eagle under 2 years old, hunting in Centennial Park, catch its prey and eat it. So it is drawing the wildlife, it is keeping the wildlife, and there in turn, it's also allowing the public to come. I have to say, I do have a special place in my heart for Centennial Park, because I can go there any day of the week, any season, and there's something interesting to see or people to interact with. So
Great.
I really enjoy that.
Awesome. I love those stories of the wildlife.
So one of the things that we wanted to talk about and what this group specifically asked for, and this is my final talking point on this slide, is the desire for the community. This board, as well as the off-leash subcommittee and the community, have asked that we bring forward ideas regarding pet registration. And the ideas behind pet registration is multifold. I think the most important aspect when it comes to pet registration, because people become a little leery when the government comes in and says, well, we need to register, or we need to do this, or they're going to call it licensing, or any number of things, the tax, whatever you want to call it. But the primary purpose of having pet registration are basically these areas. The first and foremost is so that community members, the shelter, and code enforcement can basically reunite our pets, our lost pets, quicker. Currently, we have no requirement that makes people register their animals where they live. Their microchips aren't even updated half the time if they have microchips. And so it becomes a very distressing moment for pet owners and for pets, especially if you can think, if any of you have lost a pet, it can be very traumatic, and it can go days without knowing where your pet is. It's a member of your family. People rely on that pet in a lot of ways, very socially and emotionally. And so we really want to take a moment to make sure that our pet population is registered, but we know where they live so that we can reunite them. It's also very imperative for public health. As you all know, we have had significant increase of rabies transmission within Colorado. We never thought it would be this prolific. It primarily was on the East Coast until several years ago. We have had positive cases of rabies here in the city of Englewood. And so we really want to make sure, state law does require vaccinations for pets. So does municipal ordinance, but we have no checks or balances unless we come in contact with somebody that's committed some type of a violation. And so we really want to make sure that our community maintains a healthy community, a population that's vaccinated, and a population that when they are out in public, we can guarantee to the public and to other park users that those animals are healthy and safe to be in that environment. I'm not able to pull all of the statistics, but in speaking with my code officers and reviewing citations of at large or for animals that have been involved with some type of a bite, over 90% of those have no proof of rabies vaccination. And we have to spend a considerable amount of time partnering with Arapahoe County Health and partnering with veterinarians to track down those documentations and determine whether or not a pet has been vaccinated. An unvaccinated pet, there are some protocols that take place that are very significant and very traumatic for a pet owner and for a pet. And so we want to avoid that as well. Pet registration also allows for an increase in pet and owner engagement with the city as well as the pet registration organization. This allows us to engage and really target pet owner populations with a multitude of information, and they can opt in or out for this type of a product. It's not something that's mandatory, but it is another way for us as a city, for this panel and for other organizations, city council, to communicate directly with constituents on a variety of pet topics. And also finally, and I think this was something that was also kind of important to this body, is cost recovery and revenue. One of the things that we're seeing is that we're seeing a significant cost to our taxpayers. And one of the things that we can do with pet registration is maybe diminish slightly some of those expenses, whether it comes from some maintenance, some enforcement, signage, maybe some maintenance of fencing, or replacing waste bags for animals. That would be a great way to utilize the revenue and bring in some cost recovery for the city.
Can I have a
yes.
question in there? When you're saying pet registration, are you talking about all pets, meaning cats, dogs?
Yes.
Okay. Not just off leash.
No.
Okay, thank you.
We really wanted to make it so that it was equitable, and that brings up a good point, council member, is if we limit this just to park usage, then it really is selecting in and focusing on one particular population, rather than making it equitable for the entire community. And one of the goals is to make sure that we have a healthy pet population, and it's very hard to do that when we limit it to just park usage. Yep. This was something that I wanted to just remind this body of. It's been presented to them previously, but the overwhelming support that we had during the 2020 engagement from the Englewood off leash and the surveys that went out, that a majority of our community does favor, and it does say a licensing program, but it's not just licensing. There's so much that goes into it, which is why we're calling it a pet registration program. And it goes even further to wanting one for those that utilize the park, which would be make it a healthy and safe environment within our parks. And then a little bit more indifference. People weren't quite sure how to make out my opinion, make out the last question, but it still quantifies the need for regulating those that utilize the park that may live in Colorado that utilize the facilities. And then Director Underhill is probably best to explain this part.
Yeah, so this is fun. So we just added at the end of last year, this new program called Placer, and it captures cell phone data. And so we were able to pull the visitor data for Canine Corral for last year. And it's very interesting to see. It's cool to see how many number of visits Canine Corral received, along with where our visitors are coming from. Not shocking, but Littleton is the top, then Englewood, Denver, and then Englewood again. And then also the length of stay when our visitors come to Canine Corral. So the median stay length is 38 minutes, average stay is about 45. So I thought this was just neat data to view. It also helps show where our investment's going. It's not necessarily always to our residents, it's to our surrounding communities as well. So more to come on Placer data. I think we'll be using this across our parks, recreation, city facilities, at our events to track data. So that's for Canine Corral that we pulled at the beginning of this year.
And so this, again, leads into the community desire. One of the things that came from this body, as well as the off-leash task force, and even Englewood Unleashed itself, is they know a significant population. And we weren't able to actually quantify who is using the park. This is a great way to quantify who's coming in and who's utilizing our park. And as you can see, it's not, our facilities are great, but there's a lot of cities that do not offer these type of privileges. And so they're coming to the city of Englewood knowing that they can utilize these facilities, which leads into the next portion of why are we, we need to verify that these people that are coming into Canine Corral or one of our unleashed areas also fit in with our community model of making sure that it's a healthy and safe environment for those to recreate. It also helps lessen the burden on the Englewood constituents who are footing the bill, per se, on the utilization of our facilities and the wear and tear when this cost saving or cost recovery really should be passed on to the users that also come and visit our facilities on a consistent basis. We've looked at several different products. This is in the preliminary stage, but I wanted to present to you one of the products that staff felt was the most appropriate, the most cost-effective, and the most socially conscious program with the least amount of impact with staff. So DocuPet, the reason that I've been engaging DocuPet for over 5 years, I've had conversations with them at a variety of junctions as we've gone through this program. I personally met with them at a conference and they come highly recommended. Basically, this will not require any additional staff time. And I think that's one of the biggest usage benefits to utilizing a third-party service. They take all of the requirements, do all of the research for us, upload everything and take care of it. It makes it easy for us to utilize. It's easy for shelters to utilize when trying to find homes or basically reconnect families that have been separated. And again, it's cost savings and it takes the burden of administrative work out of the hands of staff here and puts it off the burden on someone else. One of the things that you may hear during this process, and even if it goes to public comment, is pet registration or pet licensing programs don't work. The media had made a big deal out of Denver's pet licensing program, but they did all of that in-house. They dedicated staff to doing it. It was all manually done. It wasn't kept up. It wasn't efficient. And so it really broke down and became ineffective. And Denver is currently utilizing and looking at new systems and new ways to integrate, possibly utilizing a third-party service just because it is so cost effective. This program is also designed to really engage with the public, not just messaging from the city, but meaningful information that they have done scientific studies on regarding pet health, and pushing that information out so that pet owners can become aware about different topics, whether it's pet anxiety or you're going away on vacation. How do you best prepare your animal to go on vacation with you? What kinds of things do you think about in cold weather to protect your pet? Just some extra engaging, more meaningful content that would be targeted specifically towards our constituents or those that would be registered. This is just a little bit more information as to why pet owners are saying that they like this service and why our partners, that would be us, like utilizing it. The number one thing for us is making sure that we have that customer support component. We hear all the time that you all experienced it. Let's just take the airline, for example. You've got to call them and you've got to wait for such a long time. This has multiple options for you to contact and engage with a customer support person. And to get your information updated, communicated through, and it's far easier to use with their systems. They also have a lost pet hotline that they can push out information to neighbors and to targeted areas of where a pet might have gone missing, just to be like, hey, JoJo's gone missing. Here's a picture of JoJo. If you see the animal, please contact this hotline. They're never going to give the user's information out. That would be a breach of security. But please contact our pet hotline or contact code enforcement or police dispatch. That way they can get this pet reunited with their owner. And the biggest thing from our side is it's easy to use. It's web-based. We're not going to crash a system or lose something that potentially could be stored here within the city. And it's more socially conscious. So they have a variety of products. So you don't have to just use one boring tag, you know, a red or a blue or a green Englewood tag that's specific with our logo. You really have the opportunity to customize the tag that you get for your pet with your information and your unique ID. And part of the sales of those go to a charity of our choice here in the city. And so the socially conscious aspect, even though they're upselling you or upgrading your doggy bling or your cat bling that you're going to wear, and they have leashes, they have collars, they have all kinds of stuff. A portion of that does go to any charity that we would select, and I'm happy to make recommendations and see what this board would want, maybe what the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee would want. Our biggest partner and ally in this is always our animal rescues and animal welfare, and the Humane Society of the South Platte would be one that I would recommend. And Castle Rock utilizes this programming, and they've reported giving back several $1,000s of community support back into the neighborhoods that they serve. This is just to kind of give you an idea. This is a tested product. It is newer than some of the older products. The other products I don't think are as robust, have great customer service experience, or have that community engagement piece that I think would benefit our community. As you can see right now, there are 3 groups that are currently utilizing this product. It would be Boulder, Teller, and Castle Rock. I have close communication with all of my colleagues in all of these, and they highly recommend this product. Products that they've used in the past have been very cumbersome, have lacked the customer service support that we would need. And again, they just lack that social responsibility that we would be asking for as well. This is the best part, and this is where it makes my life so much easier. They take care of everything. They take care of the notifications. They make sure that you get your renewal information. They keep up all of the data, the formatting that we can access. It also allows us to say, okay, I'm out in the park and we're doing enforcement. I can get postcards from them with slight discount codes to encourage people to register, so we can pass that information out. It really is customizable to the needs of the community. It's also very cost effective. It's the startup, there's a basic startup fee that would be paid at the beginning. And then they basically take a portion of every registered animal. So on average, what they're saying based off of our current demographics, and we say 15,756 households, we have 9,700 households, but they're also counting households of users within the nearby community, because it's not just, as you know, we're intermixed with so many communities around ours. They really wanted to take that, make more of a robust approach to us. And if we got 10% of the users within the first year, which I think is reasonable, they're talking about $1.50 per registered pet per month, so $211, and that pays for itself through the licensing registration program. Wouldn't it be something that we would need to pay out other than that one-time startup cost, which the startup cost is basically the marketing, the materials, the information to get out, the postcards, anything that's branded for us, and putting together a whole strategic branded press package that we could roll out easily.
And how much is that?
It's just under 5,000 for the one-time fee. This program is actually better because the other programs have high annual reoccurring fees, whereas this one doesn't. We'd be locked in under a contract. And it's something, if we move forward with council looking at this process, it's something that we can accommodate within the current budget cycle. We have the funding to do.
And I'll just add too, through the conversations of off leash, $1.50 is very cheap.
Yeah.
We'd probably be charging $10, $20. That'd be a council decision, a
Yeah.
recommendation from you all to.
Yeah.
We would want your input and councils as to what registration fees would look like. And of course, we would ask for a 3-tier type system, one that has pets that have been spayed or neutered, a higher fee. As you know, there are more aggression, more animal unwanted puppies or kittens for unaltered animals. And so a higher fee for that. And then also anybody that lives outside of the 2 zip codes, that they would have an out of city type of fee associated with that. That would reduce the burden on the taxpayers here in Englewood.
That's great. I have to tell you, I'm very impressed, because we have been talking about pet registration for years now. So I'm very excited that you found what seems like a really great option to make this happen for the city. Any other questions, comments?
Comment and a question.
Yeah.
One, can we get copies of the PowerPoint, the whole PowerPoint that you've?
Yeah, we can send it out to the commission.
Great.
So the presentation that's going to council on the 23rd, we're going to cover more information, what we've done in the parks as well. So it's, again, an overview of the whole 2022 off-leash program. And I think overall, things went fairly well last year. People seemed to really take to the changes at Duncan and Jason Parks, and definitely received a lot less calls last year. I know we've had calls, which you saw in the report, but I think in time, as people get used to the program and what Englewood does, it'll just continue to get better.
Yeah.
And I just want to add, it has been more of a pleasurable experience in working in the off-leash privileged areas. The educational approach, they've also the users have taken an approach to educate each other, especially with new people. They're very familiar with people's dogs. And we're not running into that adversarial type of us against them type attitude. We have run into bumps. I'll be very honest. We had some expectations of certain enforcement enhancements that we were being asked to do that we couldn't accommodate just due to scheduling or lack of staffing. And so it did run into some concerns from Pirates Youth Sports, and we're hoping to better facilitate that next year with some enforcement, but we do have to randomize our enforcement.
Yeah.
We can't just set up enforcement to sit in the park for every use sport. It's not feasible.
Yeah. You had a question and a comment?
That was one of the questions. Now, if I understood this correctly, this would be for all pets in Englewood, not just off leash.
No,
Just verifying that. Let's see. Let me think there was another one. Go around and when it comes
Okay.
back up to my head. I'll wait.
I had a comment. I'm not opposed to the pet licensing. I think it has some validity. I just would suggest when presenting this and marketing it to get people to buy in more, maybe don't rely on talking about how it helps offset costs to the taxpayers, because honestly, the people who are gonna be paying for it are gonna be the taxpayers. So does it really offset the cost? And another thing, talking about in terms of safety and the rabies vaccine, the people that are not getting their dogs and animals vaccinated are also not going to do this. So I don't think that that's really gonna help in terms of that. Just asking somebody to pay $10 to prove they vaccinated their dog, that's not really out there. But I do think if we could formulate this in a way that some of this money goes to help with some vaccination clinics, or maybe some just helping offset. I do think that then shows that this helps with safety, and taking a chunk of that money and going, oh, we're trying to make the community safer. We're gonna then put it towards vaccines. So again, all for it. I think in terms of marketing it, I think those are a couple of things that could help get some more.
I appreciate that feedback and I will highlight that. In fact, I think that's a missed opportunity that we have here in the city, because the shelter currently offers low cost. We have them come to our events, low cost and free vaccinations. And so this would be another opportunity to say that those costs would go to those types of clinics. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
feedback.
that's great.
Well, could we include spaying in that for people that really can't afford it or whatever?
Yes, and the shelter currently offers those resources for a low cost spay clinic. So yes, we can set up.
Low cost for spaying, but it's not low cost is what
I think it's like $50 to $75. So they're doing it because they receive a large grant in order to provide that services. And they even have a mobile unit that goes out and does it.
If we did this and we were to donate some of the funds to a charity and doing it to like the Humane Society of the South Platte, I think that'd be really cool to form sort of a partnership with them. And even like if you were to adopt an animal from them and you live in Englewood, maybe we could figure out a way to like work this into the adoption situation so then the animals are just in the system right away.
I think that's a great opportunity
Yeah.
as well.
I love
Those
it.
are some things that I will highlight. And I will speak to the director
Cool.
because they're on board with this program.
Great. I think this is awesome, you guys.
Yeah.
So many years in the making. Any other questions or comments?
I have my other one up here. Yay. At-large dogs right now, if you pick up a dog or an animal, cat, whatever, and you don't know that dog or cat, you take them to South Platte, right? Okay, if you pick up one and you know the animal, know where the animal lives, who owns it, do you get in contact with them to come pick it up or deliver it to them, or does it also go to?
So that's the beauty of this program, is having pet registration allows us to know who the animal is. Currently, if we know who the animal is, it's tagged or collared, or we know where it lives. It's not a habitual problem. We will call the owner and let them know, hey, your animal, we're not able to hold on to it at the police department, but if you pick it up here within the next couple hours, it'll be free. It'll be waiting for you to come and pick it. But there is a ticket associated with that. So the caveat would be, if you're registered, you might get a free pass and not incur that impound fee of $250 with that ticket. We
Yeah.
can waive that and utilize that towards this.
Well, and I think sheltering, isn't there a daily fee or something?
There is a daily
And it
fee.
can get pretty steep if you're not aware, if you're going to the Dumb Friends League and looking when
Mm-hmm.
Englewood goes to the local one.
Right, and we're sensitive to the needs of the community, and if there's somebody that really has some financial troubles related to getting their pets out, we always work with them.
That's great. I think that's another selling point. That's a big selling point.
Perfect, I'll make sure I'll add that. Kind of like a pet taxi, we'll call
Yes.
it.
You say taxi or
Pet taxi.
that's what I said. I didn't mean that.
Oh, that's great. All right. Steve, any questions? You good?
I'm good. I would emphasize the good parts of this in case the board or in case the city council wants us to revisit the off-leash dog park. Please make it clear that it's working very well. We don't need to go into it again.
Sounds like a plan. Well, awesome. Thank you, Officer Lewis.
You're welcome.
We will move on to Parks and Rec goals.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
we,
Christina?
we ended the year with our accomplishments. We're gonna kick the year off with what goals we're planning to achieve. Granted, by the end of this year, you're gonna see a lot more on the list because we're doing tons of more stuff than what you see here. But on the recreation side, we're definitely gonna celebrate the National Parks and Recreation Month in July and work with them for the campaign to help educate our community of what we do in our Parks and Recreation Department and how it benefits them. Continue to offer internal training programs for our staff on customer service, change management, leadership, cost recovery, budgeting, and emergency procedures. Most all of our staff have been recently trained in first aid, CPR, AED, so you should go to our rec centers and parks knowing that we can save you if something happens. And then also just tracking programs overall for our events, services, tracking the revenue we bring in. I think this year we brought in over $90,000 in sponsorships and vendor fees for our event program, so we'll continue to do that. Also complete a year-end annual report on recreation programs, events, and services with both revenue and expenses covered. And then we have a lot of great software we can use to do that. It just helps us see what's working, what's not, what do we change moving forward. So that's high level for recreation and our parks. Obviously, we've got the bond coming this year. We're gonna need your help with that, so more to come. We're just kicking the year off now. Finalizing the construction at Baker and Centennial Parks, which means the playgrounds should be installed by February. We cannot wait. We will have a meeting out there when the weather's right to play on those playgrounds with all of you. And then also securing a Arapahoe County space open space grant for phase 2 of Bates Logan. We're currently working on phase 1, which should be completed probably by the third quarter, but hopefully by the end of the year. It kind of depends on supply chain. Like we experienced with the playgrounds, they were delayed almost 12 months from the date we ordered. And then also researching, identifying, applying for 2 more grants. We've been in talks with GOCO, Arapahoe County. We really want to utilize the funds to enhance our park system in addition to the bond that we're going after. And then increasing our park pavilion use through social media posts. We have brand new pavilions at Baker, Centennial, and Cushing. We hope people start utilizing. You can reserve those pavilions now. So if you have birthday parties or events coming up, get your name in there and reserve your pavilion. The community garden is something that we also oversee. And so offering more classes and events at the community garden. We have started accepting applications for the season this year. And then as far as website improvements, we do have microsites for all our divisions, but the big one that we're working with our GIS team is an art map and a parks map, so that are more interactive, so you can learn about the arts, and that's in partnership with our Cultural Arts Commission throughout our city, and then just more information about our parks, so people that are visiting our city or that live here can learn more about those. And then golf, we will be doing a golf master plan this year. We're in process talking to some contractors to implement that. And really it's to look at, we have a lot of capital projects at golf that we want to do. And we heard about that from one of our patrons that utilizes the golf course. You all did. And the question was, what are you doing? And so potentially looking at the what's it called? The actual building for the golf course. It's definitely aging. There's a lot of issues with it. We need to look at renovating that. Overall, how do we make more money at the golf course? Are we competitive with other front range golf courses that are public golf courses? We always hear when we raise the fees, oh, you're the most expensive in town, or we're not, we're really not. And so we want to see where we can maximize The finances there, also developing a marketing plan, and something that's really big that the big courses use, both private and public, are GPS units. It's something that can help us with the maintenance of the course, as well as bring in more revenue for the golf course, selling sponsorships on those GPS units. So I included golf in this, even though technically the commission doesn't oversee it, but you have heard from the golf course. And to me, it's recreation. So we'll keep you updated on the happenings at the golf course. So high level overview of the annual goals that we have planned for this coming year. A lot of things in progress and in the works already. And any questions?
None for me. Sound good?
Cool.
Get that money. All right. Next, joint capital improvements plan meeting.
So right now, last year we did this where all of our commissions that have capital improvements, which you all do, we have quite a few with our parks and recreation. We had a joint meeting last year. We're planning on doing that again this year. April 24th, I believe, is the date for that meeting. And so what we're asking is, who wants to come to that meeting? I know Cody attended, we had others that were on the call. It most likely will be another hybrid meeting. Our library board is deciding if they're just gonna send the chair and then the chair comes back and reports, or if the whole board would like to attend, or some of the members. So we don't need to know tonight if you wanna come, just think about it. Like I said, the tentative date is April 24th. I believe that's a Monday night. Most likely the meeting will be at 6 p.m. Downstairs in the community room. And we'll send you out more information on that. And that way you can say, yes, I want to attend that, or no, I'm not available. And we'll have a head count for who will be there.
Great. Any other questions, comments on new business? Old business, doesn't look like we have anything. We do?
No.
No, we don't?
We
You guys,
don't.
Great.
Starting the year off fresh.
Love it. All right. Well, then we will move into staff's choice, and I will start with Libby.
That's a commission.
Oh, staff's choice.
Over here.
Other side, Allison.
Yeah, starting off the year, with getting our events calendar together, all the events that are gonna go on this year, so that should be done. Hoping by the end of next week, to get that on the website, get that going, so a lot of cool things planned. The spring guide, the Citizen magazine, and the activity guide for spring is in production now. The registration is next February 8th. And then just a kind of a heads up, the Malley closure is at the end of February, so that's coming up. No major projects there, just basic closure, cleaning, floors, things like that. The gym floor will all the lines will be taken off and redone, so that's probably the biggest part of the project for that. Another big thing that's gonna happen at Malley in March is that BOA is gonna shut down for a month, 5 weeks. They're moving to Commerce City. So they're gonna provide 5 meals per patron, frozen meals, so we'll make sure everybody's getting fed. We have about 12 regular diners, so we're gonna be doing that. The SCFD report and the grant are coming up, so we averaged 21,000 to 23,500 is what we got this year. So this will be for the 2024 programs and things that are culturally centric. The trust fund meets next month, first Monday in February. I know we had someone who applied, and Debbie and I are working on that. Mitch, who we know, but it didn't go through. So we're trying to fill that position. Jim, you know about that.
And Karen's been great, so thank you for all helping push her to join the trust fund.
Thanks for
Good.
helping us. The renovation at the recreation center, we should see some work on the HVAC system portion of that to be completed before we can do anything with the aquatics area, office area, not the pool, and the front desk. So I think we're shooting for April, which means June. So we'll see how that goes, but we're moving along with it. So we have a meeting coming up. So that's exciting to get that going. We were able to have some winter camps over the last week of December, the first week of January. That's the first time we've kind of done that in a long time. So we're planning for that. We have some positions to fill, and we're discussing what the drama program is going to be for the summer. I think it's going to be Wizard of Oz. Don't quote me. So I'm trying to get something that's younger than 60, 75 years old, but maybe the Wiz, I don't know. So, but that's exciting that that program, we had kind of, we didn't do it for a couple of years and
Yeah.
we're getting a lot of play off of that. So, the warming center was held whole Valley with December 21st, 22nd, something like that. So, that was a good thing for the community, and, our group addressed some issues that went on with that, but it was probably a life-saving thing for those cold temperatures, so.
Good.
We had, how many people come off the streets total?
9 the
There was
first night.
9 the first night, then there was 29 the second night.
Wow.
Yeah,
Of
and they're
those-
still showing up. So,
Yeah, the majority of them were all walk-ins. The first night, there was one brought in by security, another one by Littleton PD. And then the second night, there was all walk-ins, except there was one by Englewood PD, and then also security brought one in.
And you had mentioned potential hypothermia with at least one.
Yeah, we had a couple incidents and two, and the one was hypothermic. EMS was called for that person. He wasn't transported by that time. He had warmed up a little bit too, so.
we did hire a new recreation supervisor at Mally. So she has hit the ground running. She came to us from Aurora. So she's already set up new programs. So we're very excited about having her. Her name is Nancy Baum. So she'll be running VOA, the hikes, the trips and tours, cultural arts classes, things like that. So she's really integrated herself within that group. So just lots of stuff going on. It
Yeah.
seems moving forward. So it's exciting stuff.
Any questions? All right, Adrian?
All right. So as Christina said, we're waiting on playgrounds and weather to break to finish our construction projects. Bates Logan Phase 1, I'm working with finance and designer. We had a surplus, or our bids came in a little lower than we anticipated. So we're working on getting hopefully some additional stuff done with Phase 1 money than we were planning. So that's kind of been holding us up a little bit, but it's starting to move forward again. We're looking at partnering with the Sustainability Committee and doing some test flower beds. There's some biochar stuff they want to try, so we're going to give that a shot. We hired a new parks technician. We stole him from Allison.
You're welcome.
So he was a part-timer with the recreation department. And his name's Manny Martinez, and he started a couple weeks ago. So we're excited to have him. We also have one opening that we're interviewing for tomorrow. The main thing I wanted to share with you guys is that our Bellevue solar lighting is in production. So that's very exciting. I brought this, we want to pass it around. This is what we're going with, these leaves.
Oh, beautiful.
Ours don't have these fancy charging stations and that stuff, and they'll be black.
Cool.
So we're excited to finally get that moving. The guys are doing Christmas tree recycling and snow removal, so they're very busy. We're starting to, prep for the spring volunteer flower program. Debbie's gonna help us out this year, so we're getting very busy.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, we're excited to get those and light the park up. And if those work, I mean, we will look at expanding the solar program to other parks as we have funding available. There might be some grants we can go after, and
Oh, yeah.
definitely want to try it. Some of our parks are a little dark.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I like the leaves. I think that's definitely the best choice. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine, do you have anything?
well, I'll let Brad go and then I'll cover the most recent news that
Okay.
has hit the media for
Oh.
the library is
Yeah.
wanting to be involved.
It's good to wait for that one out of. Just kind of update a little bit on aquatics and stuff while I'm still in that role also today. And tomorrow we are interviewing for the aquatics manager position. So interviews went well today. So we have 2 more candidates tomorrow. So can't wait for that to be filled.
Yeah.
Other things going on as far as with Pirates Cove, reservations for after-hour rentals began on the 3rd. Half the slots are already filled, and all but one of them are returners.
That's
So
awesome.
they're happy to have that option to do that again. Rec Center's going really good, gangbusters with learn to swim lessons. We're also working with Englewood schools, trying to get a program up to where we can get all third graders learn to swim class. So all that logistics, we put in for another USA swimming grant this year. And that we'll know about that in March, and we'll take that money and we'll put that towards that learn to swim program for them. And day camps, all that stuff is started up, reservations for that with Pirates Cove. And the hiring process of Pirates Cove has already started, so we're in the middle of that one, and postings will go out probably next week or the following week, so it's time to gear up for summer.
Do you know what type of wage you're gonna have this year for Pirates Cove?
Well, the one thing is all the returners that will come back will be at 5% increase of what they were last year. Minimum wage did go up, so we will match probably a little bit more than what minimum wage was. We were a quarter more than what last year was. So
Good, okay.
we feel pretty comfortable with where we're at with the other aquatic areas in the metro area. So I think we'll be good.
Love it.
So if you've seen the news, we did have to shut our library down and the first floor lobby as well as the second floor restrooms. Boulder over the holidays had tested their library for potential contaminants from meth, as they had a lot of drug use they were aware of, and they came back positive, as we did too. So we are in the process of working with the testing that came in, that company, as well as talking to some contractors on next steps for mitigating the removal of the contaminants in our, not the ventilation system, the exhaust fans in the restroom. So exhaust fans were working properly. The highest concentration, that's where that was in the exhaust fans. A handful of touch points that were tested came back positive. And so there's gonna be a deep cleaning of the library. The walls of the library, the toilets, the stalls will all be removed. That all is yet to be determined. This is very new. It just hit the
Yeah.
news, so we found out about it yesterday. And so we're working through that process. But every news station has covered this. Radio stations are covering this. Now we're waiting for the national news to start reaching out. Hopefully Boulder took the lead on all of it.
Yeah.
We won't have to go that route, but this is new territory for all of the staff here. I know the library staff are relieved because they were, I mean, we've been aware there's been an increase in drug use in the city center campus as well in the library. In fact, the day we shut down yesterday, we shut down at 2:45, closed the library, escorted everybody out. We actually found a pipe of sorts, meth, I don't know, fentanyl, whatever, on the library floor. And so it was kind of the exclamation point to why
Yeah.
we were doing this, to make the library as safe as possible. So there has been questions, are we gonna be testing other facilities? That's yet to be determined. I believe our rec centers most likely do not have the same amount of use, because we know who walks through the door.
Yeah.
As far as the library is concerned, in that kind of context of who walks through our door every day, our legal team is looking at, can we check IDs as people come in? We're gonna ramp up security when we reopen, potential bag searches, not that that won't stop anything per se, but at least we can maybe catch some things that deter people from coming in that may wanna be doing some bad stuff in the library versus using it for what it's intended for. So that's what we're dealing with. We're hoping the library will be reopened within the next couple weeks, but it's all determined by how quick the contractors can get in there and start doing the mitigation process. So happy to answer any questions you have on that.
I have one here. When they checked for meth, was that also checking for things like fentanyl, or have we checked?
That's a good question. So our attorney's office was talking to the agency that performed the test and asking about that. Can we test for fentanyl? We know there's been an extreme rise in fentanyl use. And we have smelled fentanyl in our restrooms. I've personally smelled it down there. Not that I knew what it smelled like before. I had to research it first.
Yeah.
Let's make that clear. But what they said is right now, since fentanyl is so new and the type of the smoking of the fentanyl is fairly new, there's no baseline to know
Oh.
when you're at a threshold. So they refer to meth and that baseline as the canary in the cave. If you have the canary, which is the meth, you most likely have other drugs present. We know marijuana use is prevalent down, I mean, we smell it all the time. You walk into the Civic Center, sometimes up here it smells pretty strong. Not as big of a concern as these other harsher drugs. And so we really want to make the library, the Civic Center, all our facilities safe for our patrons and as well as our staff. So it's an unfortunate situation, but I'm extremely happy the city was proactive. The minute the news came out about Boulder, we started the conversation, we procured the testing company, and now we are moving quickly to get this fixed and next steps. And there's a lot more to come. This isn't gonna be completed as far as how we keep this out of our facilities. It's probably gonna be years in the making, but we're gonna do everything we can to keep everybody safe as soon as we reopen.
Well, one of the newscasters, anchors, stated this morning that he hopes other cities, metro areas, follow the lead of Boulder and Englewood.
Yeah.
And I thought, all right, that's the right thing to say as opposed to.
We did learn, it was on one of the newscasts, Adrian informed me and Debbie told me she heard it later. They did reach out to Denver, one of the news stations, and Denver said they would not be testing and no intentions to. And so I don't know what's gonna come out of that, but I'm just proud that Englewood's being taken care of and the city's making the investment. Insurance will be covering this, so it's not coming out of the general fund. I think our deductible is $150,000, which is high, but ultimately this is gonna cost a lot more than that. So to make this right, it's worth the investment to take care of this now. And more testing will be going on. This was just the initial. Once you test positive, the state's now involved and they are now telling us what the next steps are, and we are taking their lead to figure all that out. Nothing I thought I'd be an expert in by the time we're all done with it.
Right. I mean, how are you guys all doing working here with this going on?
Hey, we've been exposed, so.
I mean, yeah.
We joked, we're like, I might be going through withdrawals as the library's been closed and I haven't been down there, no,
Yeah.
but, we're still learning more from Arapahoe County Health Department as
Yeah.
far as exposure and what that means. What they're stating now from the county is from the residue that's left, it's a very low exposure, so you really probably won't experience anything.
Yeah,
But there's more to come on that too, because this is very new.
definitely.
For
And it's,
everybody.
I'm sure it's traumatic, like your workplace has this going on and then it's in this national news. So just let
I
us,
already knew it was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, down outside of the windows and that, so.
Well, I think a good thing is it's in the exhaust system and that's always
It's going out.
going out.
It does not circulate in this building, so.
It's exhaust, so.
Yeah.
I'm glad the city was proactive. Really sorry to hear that
Yeah,
this is
it's a
going
sad
on.
day.
But, you know, it's good for the community to be active and taking care of things like this, and we'll be better off in the long run. Okay, thanks for the update.
Yeah.
Other questions? Anyone? Okay. Well, let's go into commissioner's choice. Cody,
Got nothing.
Tim, Mark,
Nope.
Steve,
Only question I got, the engagement, the Bible church. I assumed not, because it's so early in the year. Sure, if Jim got a chance to talk to the council, or if Christina had gotten a chance to reach out, or what was happening there.
Oh, the church.
yeah.
Sorry, you were cutting out just a little bit. I was trying to
Sorry.
piece together what you were saying.
If anybody been able to, had a chance to reach out, or if Jim would be able to talk to Antonio yet.
Yeah, so I talked to community development about that property. What we're hearing from the church is incorrect. That property is worth millions and probably nothing we can afford to buy. I don't know all the details behind it, but community development was pretty adamant that they could sell that property for face value and make some money on that. So unfortunately for us, we do not have a reserve fund large enough to purchase the property, at least at this time. Hey, if it sits for a long time and they get desperate, let us know.
No, I just assumed with it being a nonprofit, they were not gonna be that concerned with the money, but I guess they may end up being, so be it. I appreciate checking on it though.
Yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, I got nothing.
Right. And I have nothing, so I believe we can adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
See you, Steve.
Bye.